Welcome back to This Is Not CBC.
Welcome to Canada, land of polite people, troubled cupboards, and political theater. Tonight, how a country forgot its own suffering while arguing about the man next door. Fasten your seatbelts. So, today, Canada has a new sort of leader, a banker in a red cape, calm on camera, impeccable in interviews, loved by financial media, and now our Prime Minister. They called him the stabilizer, the man who would tame global chaos, the one to stare down the neighbor and their terrorists with a cool, measured nod. But let's rewind. Let's go back before the photo ops, before the hashtags, before the red cape. Because if you want to understand how we got here, you need to see what Canada looked like before the show began. Remember the early 2010s? Flared pants were gone, skinny jeans marched in, smartphones got smarter by the year. The first generation of pocket sized internet arrived. Kids wanted tablet games and collectible figurines. TV nights meant appointment viewing, heavy dramas, must see comedies, and a few guilty pleasure reality shows. Music was loud, earnest, and unforgettable. Back when the economy had its scrapes, sure, but people felt like they could scrape by. They had jobs, neighborhoods with shops they recognized, and a sense that tomorrow would be roughly like today, maybe even a little better. Food banks existed, but many believed they were temporary lifelines, not life ways. Then the Liberals returned and promised big things, a fresh face, bright speeches, a new tone. Some policies helped, some did not. Over the decade that followed, the political theater in Canada shifted from dull policy argument to nonstop spectacle. We watched it all. The convoy, when highways became front stage and the call to protest turned into national news. Axe attacks rallies, pandemic waves that closed the country and opened fierce debates about liberty, science, and survival. The COVID years brought vaccines, masks, lockdowns, and a new vocabulary of acronyms. For many, the public health response saved lives. For others, the rollout and the messaging felt rushed, confusing, and sometimes heavy handed. Arguments about mandates, freedom, and data have roared ever since. During those years, the insults started getting louder: anti vaxxer, science denier. Labels were hurled like confetti at a parade, and the parade didn't stop. If you disagreed with a policy, you risked being dismissed instead of debated. That polarizing language changed how neighbors spoke to neighbors. Meanwhile, the country's cupboards quietly emptied. Food bank lines lengthened. Shelters overflowed. Veterans, the people who saved Canada, sometimes slept in tents outside government offices while waiting for help. Retirees tightened their budgets. Some had to choose which utility to pay. Across cities, rents rose faster than paychecks. Affordable housing became the thing Canada talked about between commercials. But too often, nothing changed for the families on the ground. We were distracted. We argued about optics, about who could stare down the neighbor. The neighbor's leader, brash and loud, became our national boogeyman on every late night show. Barges and tweets and tariffs dominated headlines. The story the network sold was simple: fear of the neighbor equals the reason to rally behind a single steady hand. So we did it. We voted on fear, not on personal hardship, not on the length of food bank lines. We chose the man who could handle the neighbor, even though the cracks at home were already wide enough to drive a freight train through. Enter the banker in the red cape, polished, measured, rodent calming. The mainstream media loved him. He had the tone, the numbers, and the handshake. He promised to lower fees, tame inflation, cut grocery bills, fix housing, stand up to the neighbor, and the clincher, bring stability. But what we got was the real man, not the PR portrait. The man of balance sheets who loved net zero pronouncements, who championed industrial carbon levies that looked like policy and felt like pocket drain to most families. The PM who favored big contracts, the kind that make for friendly headlines and friendly bank accounts for friends. The one who watched foreign investments grow south of the border and sometimes looked, critics say, very calm about it. Let's be clear, some of these are allegations and others are policy choices up for debate. The point is the same. While the country battled empty cupboards and tented veterans, big decisions were made, and not everyone felt they benefited with those. And then there was the ostrich affair, a government sanctioned cull of farm animals over a disease scare, or most likely over a big pharma investment. We also got digital IDs pushed forward as modern convenience. Supporters said they'd make services easier. Skeptics said they'd make oversight easier. And the political temperature, it kept rising. Laws critics warned could be used to silence whistleblowers and clamp down on dissent were debated in Parliament. Supporters said they were needed for stability and to counter misinformation. Opponents said that these laws risked chilling free speech. The debate became another line on a long menu of anxieties. Canadians, we should ask ourselves, quietly and clearly, what do we want our country to be? A polite place where we smile and look away? Or a place where we hold our leaders to account? Where veterans don't sleep in tents? Where food banks are emergency tools, not everyday lifelines? Some commentators shout dictatorship at the slightest hint of control. Others point to notorious regimes around the world as a worst case mirror, hence North Korea. Now, this is a warning. Canada, this is your story. And if you like, you can choose to keep watching the show, or you can stand up at your table, look at the bills, the food line numbers, the tent cities, and say, enough. We were distracted by the big, flashy enemy next door, by the man with the loudest tweets, by the fear of foreign thunder. We forgot our cupboards. We forgot our veterans. We forgot our neighbors. That was the real scandal. Now, you guys, this is not CBC. We give you the bloopers, the flashbacks, and the uncomfortable mirror. Watch, laugh, be outraged, but most of all, pay attention. The show may be entertainment, but the lines are real. Thanks for watching.